תסגרי את זה מחר, אז יהיו על זה 25,000 קופצים.
ברור. אבל יכול להיות שיקח לנו קצת זמן להבין שזה המצב.
אל תשים אותנו בווידאו.
אני לא בווידאו.
רפו. שלום יונתן.
שלום רן, מה נשמע?
בסדר, עוד זום. מקווה שיהיה מעניין.
זוכר מה אמרנו לפני כמה ימים?
כן. אני מסתכל בינתיים. זהו, זה עוד 2 דקות צריך להתחיל.
כן.
בחרתי רקע יותר מעניין. ניכנס לאווירה.
לא, זה כן, זה מיכל, לא, מיכל ארנון.
מי זאת? צריך תמיד
הצרות השונות, כאשר מדרך הטבע, העיניים השירוניות מסורות לעבר אותו טור שריון אינסופי שעושה דרכו לאט, אבל בבטחה לכיוון העיר קייב, כך לפחות אומרים האוקראינים, כאשר הרוסים מסירים היום את הצפות ומסלימים את המצב בעיקר בערים אחרות, בדרום, מריופול וחרסון מופגזות.
כל התקציב יש ירון סובל, איזה סמונה, מה המשרד?
תמונת הרקע של המשרד. כשאני אפתח את המצלמה רואים אותי, זה כדי שזה לא מצלם בבית.
יש כולם כבר יודעים איך הבית נראה.
לא אלה. חבר'ה מפה לא יודעים.
כל העת אנחנו ממשיכים להיות מדווחים על שיירות גדולות מאוד שמנסות לעזוב את המדינה. נכון לעכשיו מספרים מדברים כבר על 700,000 בני אדם שעזבו, וחוסר בהירות גם לגבי תמונת הקרב, לגבי הצד של הנפגעים בצד הרוסי כמובן, כאשר
איפה היא? פה. Hello, how are you?
Fine, and you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I don't hear you, but we will find out how to do it soon.
me it seems to be okay.
Great. Now we hear you well.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So, everyone, hello to everyone. Hello, Asaf. It's great to...
My internet connection is not so good. So I
Don't
hope
worry, our lighting is not so good. We will manage, we will manage.
yes.
So, I'll just say a few words in Hebrew and I'll continue with you. אז אני רואה שכמעט כולם פה, עוד התחברו ברגעים הקרובים. איזה כיף לחזור קצת לטעימות זום. ככה הרבה זמן כבר לא עשינו, יחסית, וזו תקופה מאוד עמוסה גם עבורנו, גם של אירועים, גם של פתיחת הלופט וגם המון המון עם המסעדות ועם הביקורים באירופה, ואנחנו שמחים שאתם פה איתנו שוב, לארח באמת יעננית סופר מיוחדת שכבר תספר את הסיפור שלה, סיפור מרתק, שאנחנו נשמע ממנה זוג צעיר שבציר 2020, מה שאנחנו טועמים זה הבציר הראשון שלהם, וכבר תשמעו את כל הסיפור, אז כיף לראותכם ואני אחזור אליה. So I just made a little bit introduction, and from now on, unless your connection will be bad that you cannot explain something or that, so I will just say a few words, and so I think the best will be kind of an introduction about the domain and you and Ugo, and after that we will start with maybe tasting both aligoté together and see the difference, and you will explain us. After we can do the Bourgogne Blanc, as you said, by itself, doing the both Haute Côte Bourgogne Rouge together, the Haute Côte de Beaune, Bourgogne Rouge, and then finish with the Marange, which is your home spot.
Yes, totally. Okay, so I begin.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. Nice to meet you, and nice to present so our project from Hugo and I. So we are 27, and we worked. We studied agronomy and enology in Bordeaux a few years ago. Hugo was completely mad of Burgundy at that moment. And he decided to give me the virus of Burgundy, and I discovered Burgundy and the way to vinificate terroir in Burgundy. I made my internship in Clos de Tard in 2017, and then I studied my enological diploma in Switzerland with Marie-Thérèse Chapa in Valais. And Hugo learned with Jean-Marc Rouleau and Frédéric Munier in Chambol-Musigny. And at the end of our internship, we decided to work a bit in Burgundy and decided to have our own vineyard. But yes, you know, in Burgundy, it's quite impossible to do that because that's very expensive and very rare. But we were very lucky because 2 years ago, so at the beginning of 2020, sorry, we received a proposition to buy 5 hectares of Haute Côte de Beaune, Bourgogne Aligoté, and Marange Village, with a house and with some materials for the vinification, but nothing to work the vines. So we decided to begin the project in February 20. The vineyard wasn't in organic farming before, but since we are on the estate, we work in organic farming and will be labelized in 2 years. Precisely. And so the most part of the vineyard is not really around the house, but not very far. We just have 1.3 hectares in Chasseillecamp, so 10 kilometers from here. And the rest is in Sampigny-les-Maranges, so the city where we live. I'm sorry, the city where we live, and another plot in Rentig in Déziz-les-Maranges, which is not so far, just the village near Sampigny. So 20 was our first vintage. It was a good vintage in quantity and quality. 21 was so different. I think you heard about it, of course. The most part of our production is Pinot Noir, and but we have Chardonnay and Aligoté too. We produce 8 cuvées for the vintage 20 and 10 cuvées for the vintage 21. Yes, and we have the wish to vinificate separately each plot to be sure that the identity of each plot will be clear for the people who drink our wine. And the goal is not to blend all the plots, because I think this is the identity of Burgundy. And so we want to respect it and to work in that philosophy. Yes, I think I think I spoke about what I wanted to introduce.
Yeah. So first vintage, and I think Daniel and I have tasted. Daniel, of course, tasted the whole range at the winery, but I tasted only 2, and it's really, really, really exciting wines, especially for first vintage and coming from, let's say, the lesser known terroirs of Burgundy, as Haute-Côte de Beaune or Marange, and really you just witnessing great wines, just great wines in the making. And I know 2020 was fabulous, and then 2021 is like exactly the opposite, but yeah, I believe the future is really, really bright, but we haven't tasted yet with our clients, nothing. So it's going to be the first time. Each one of them actually got like small small bottles of your wines, labeled, of course. And that's it. I think we are ready to pour the first pair, the 2 Aligoté.
Yeah.
Yes, sure. We can do the first pair, both together, both the Mitan Chéri and the Gerliou. Yes, yeah. Is that correct? Okay. And I can say that it's nice because the first time I came to taste with you and arriving at the domain with our common friend telling me you should go to taste the Casiopé. So I'm tasting the first wine and I say, wow, that's the kind of wine I love. They do something so special. They learned it very, very fast. Yeah. I mean, reminded me kind of from what I knew, the Patloup style, Ganeva style, something different from the usual Burgundy way, although the two of you did work in a very classic Burgundy winemakers, yeah, like Rouleau, Mounier, Claudetal. So seems like very fast you created your own style, and then I said like I just needed to taste the first wine to say yeah, sure. Just please give me an allocation.
Maybe I can speak about the difference between both Aligoté.
Maybe to do a small introduction for Aligoté, as for me, it's a variety that do not get the respect it should get because of kind of AOC and different things that the Aligoté is not planted in the best area. So maybe just small introduction for the Aligoté and then for both.
Yes, the Aligoté for us is very important because historically Aligoté was only drunk for pleasure with some fruit juice, and it wasn't a very quality wine. It wasn't the goal of the winemakers because Chardonnay was, was the symbol of Burgundy and of great white in Burgundy. We decided to separate both cuvées because if we do that for Pinot Noir and if we do that for Chardonnay, I think it's fair to do that for Aligoté. So the first Aligoté came from a very young plot, 25 years old, so Aligoté Mitancherie. And when we saw the profile of the grapes, the size of berries, and the color of berries, it was totally normal and obvious to separate it, because we knew before the harvest that the profile of the wine will be so different. So that's why we did, and it confirmed it when it was during the winemaking. So Mitancherie, the first plot, very good yield, young. We decided to harvest it with lots of acidity. You spoke about the kind of Aligoté people want to drink. I think there is two main profiles. And our profile of Aligoté we love is with lots of acidity and lots of freshness, with low degree of alcohol. That's very important for us if the vintage permits it, of course. That is not every vintages. Aligoté Mitancherie, on the map, we can see it yeah, just under. Yeah, totally. This is a plot of 1.5 hectares, so with very good yield. So for a young estate to begin, that's very interesting for us. The profile of the vegetal is very big grapes and very big berries. And we decided to vinificate it like all the whites with a very small quantity of sulfur. We have a diploma of enology, so the goal is to make some analysis very often to be sure that it will be very clear and very clean after a trip in Israel, for example. That's very important for us. But if we can add very small quantity of sulfur for us, that's very important to have the clear identity and the clear freshness and pleasure of Aligoté. The second plot, Aligoté Angerlieu, is older. This is a blend between vines of 35 and 80 years old. The yields are of course very lower. That's normal. It's in Chastelcamp. Yes, totally. This is a plot which is in green in Chastelcamp.
Okay, so it's just the small part inside.
Sorry?
So it's just the small part inside the red area.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally. Because in Bourgogne-Angerlieu, we have the Bourgogne Aligoté Angerlieu and Bourgogne Rouge Angerlieu, which is not yet in bottle. It's still in barrel.
And this is the plot where it's located just like out of nowhere, a little bit.
Yes, totally. We have no neighbors. So this is a real plot where we can do a real organic farming, because in the other plots, we have some neighbors who work differently compared to us. That's normal, and that's a problem in viticulture. Bourgogne Mitancherie has been bottled in June. Bourgogne Angerlieu has been bottled in November. We decided to make a longer aging. All the alcoholic fermentation and all the aging is done in barrel. There is no process in vat. Except the débourbage just after the harvest, of course, but after it gets immediately in barrel. The alcoholic fermentation and the malolactic fermentation is natural, of course. We don't add some yeast or some bacteria. Bourgogne-Angerlieu has a special particularity, which is that 60% of the aging is done
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Zoom. Technical Zoom stuff.
Yes, I was talking about Bourgogne-Angerlieu, the Bourgogne Aligoté Angerlieu. The special thing is that the aging is separated by between 60% in a concrete egg and 40% in barrel. We decided to blend it because our goal wasn't to do a cuvée in concrete egg. This is not our goal. We just wanted to work on this kind of different content. And yes, the concrete egg without the barrel is a bit too serious for us, with lots of bitterness, which is very interesting in aligoté, but if it is blended with the part in barrel. Concerning the vinification, the winemaking, that's exactly the same for both, except the concrete egg for aligoté en gerlieu, and the period for the aging, which is longer for aligoté en gerlieu than aligoté mitancherie.
So nice to see a little bit the difference between the two. If we go for the first one, it's like you see the vinification is so beautiful, the touch with the wine, it's more the classic aligoté as we know more with, of course, with a much more complexity than usual, but it's still the crunchy fruit and it's still the coming, you know, the more digest. And when you go to the gerlieu, it's amazing to see the complexity, the dry extract on the palate, the white tannins coming and giving it such a great pleasure, and also it kind of this honeyed a little bit touch. It's really, really amazing to see how complex and bodied is this aligoté, with so much freshness and
the palate is amazing. It's just super, super balanced. And of course, the mitancherie is a little bit more fruity, a little bit more open. And you see how the minerality, there's like a step in the minerality when you go to Angerlieu. It's a little bit more chiseled on the nose. Might be from, I don't know, maybe a longer élevage, but I really believe that this terroir is totally different than mitancherie. And you really feel that at your first nose. But yeah, the vinification is amazing. It's like you take a little bit things to the edge, but not too much. That's, I don't know if it's working. Like I know what we tasted from Thomas Picot from Patloup. He likes to work a lot with the lees. He's not along with the lees, but aging a lot on the lees, not doing batonnage. So I'm curious if it's the same for you, that you like use more aging on the lees.
Concerning the process about lees, the goal is, because we are in indigenous yeast, we have not the choice not to put some lies, because the goal is that the yeast have something to eat for the alcoholic fermentation and the malolactic fermentation. And we love the profile with, I can't say big quantities, but with some lees. The goal is not to put it in barrel very clear. The goal is to add some lees, but we didn't work with batonnage, but I can't say this is a big rule. Maybe in future it will depend on the profile of the vintage. But in 2021, the alcoholic fermentation was very fast and without problem, without stop. In 21, it was a bit slower, but it never stopped. So for us, the goal was to keep the acidity and the bitterness. And sometimes in aligoté, this is my experience, the lees can give too much, how can I say it? Something too heavy. Yes, this is my opinion, and I tasted lots of wines. Like I love the wines from Thomas Picot, for example, or other people who work with batonnage. But on this profile of aligoté, we wanted to do with a very low level of alcohol, because both aligoté are around 12.4 degrees, so very low. It wasn't very interesting for us to work with batonnage, but maybe in the future, we don't know.
But really the difference, you mean you guard a lot of acidity in the mitancheri? It's very like blowing. It's more the kid that it's you know, very expressive on the palate, on the nose. It's like everything is there. And in the Gerliot, it's like really the length is giving what the work with the, seems like also the concrete and also the élevage in the wood with a little bit longer is giving all this kind of pleasure, all this kind of width with all the energy and the acidity, and it's amazing. Really, it's really classic. It's like taking the one that goes with you to lunch and the one that goes with you for dinner and more, and even standing by itself, really, really nice when, and it's great.
It was totally our philosophy between both aligotés, so I'm happy to hear it, that people understand what we wanted to do.
Nice.
And yeah, absolutely. And I really would like to leave the second, the aligoté, the Gerliot, to taste it next to the Haute Côte de Beaune, because to feel a little bit how it stands with Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And to see next to that. So we just...
for the בורגון הוט קוד, אפשר למזוג את הבורגון הוט קוד דה בון לקוט, לאחת הכוסות. מוזמנים גם לעשות את ההשוואה איתנו של אונג'רליו ובעצם לקוט, ומשם נמשיך.
Okay. And how was the 2020 vintage compare now to 2021? Did you suffer in terms of the quantity a lot in 2021?
Yes, a lot. Yes, a lot. Especially in the plots for the cuvée you will just taste. Chardonnay was very, very, very impact, especially the young vine of Chardonnay, which is the half part of the Haute Côte de Beaune you are tasting. So yes, the difference was 20 was dry, but not too dry for us, because we are lucky in Marange. I think I can say we have a sort of microclimate, because we had a small quantity of rain just before harvest. For example, I spoke with François from Dangerville, and he finished the harvest. We didn't begin it because yes, it was so dry for them, and it was very difficult to have a good balance because of the hot and the dryness. And I think in the Marange, it was different. Cross finger, for the future, it will be the same. It is a bit colder during the night, which is very important, especially in vintages like 20, where it was, yes, so dry and so hot. In 21, it was, as you said, it was totally the opposite, with so much rain and no sun at all. So for the ripening period, it was very difficult, because the harvest began at the end of September and finished at the beginning of October, which is a very late moment compared to previous years. And yes, the problem was about 3 days of frost in April. Very, very hard frost, because -7 during the night. So for people who have some candles, it was totally useless. Yes, the Chardonnay was suffered the most. Aligoté, it was less than 20, but it was okay, because Aligoté is a very resistant variety. And Pinot Noir, it depends of the plots. Marange Village resisted a lot, and Haute Côte de Beaune, for example, it was catastrophic. So yes, cross finger for 22, it will be a good vintage, we hope.
And it's nice to see that Marange is the, let's say, western, southern place of the Côte de Beaune, the border which after that is not anymore the Côte de Beaune.
Yeah, totally. You have a slope just You have a slope which is especially for haute côte, and the slope which is totally opposite is Marange Village, and on the bottom, Marange Village Premier Cru.
Okay. I'm actually trying to read the map, and on the green part, I can understand that Centenay is after Chassin, and like we're going south, but I can't understand how.
No, but we go more west to.
Just go west. So, because I'm looking at Bouzeron, and I just can't put it on the map. Like it's the first time.
The
I see
real
this
map
point.
should turn a little bit like that.
Okay.
And then you will have Chassin,
Bouzeron is like
Marange,
that, and Marange is a little bit more up western side.
and think that Rochepot there is also very high.
Yes, totally. You totally understood.
So all the plots, let's say, okay, so Bas-du-Clos is like facing south, let's say.
Yes, Bas-du-Clos facing south. Yes, totally.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Concerning the cuvée Haute Côte de Beaune Blanc, there is so it was bottling in at the same time as Aligoté Mitanchy, so in June. It was our first bottling. So yeah, the aging was a bit short, but that was the goal. I can't say there is a rule. Maybe in 21 it will be different. It depends on the profile, the vintage, and about our tasting. And when we think it needs more aging, we can keep it. If we are afraid to lose the fruit, we try to catch it and to bottle it maybe earlier. It depends. We are lucky to be to live on the estate and to be in couple. We can do something. We can do what we want and when we want. So that's very interesting for us. And we have small quantities, so it's a good thing too. And Haute Côte de Beaune-les-Côtés, this is a blend between a young vine on limestone, a young vine of 5 years, 5 years, which is on limestone. Before it was a forest. So this is the only plot which never received some disgrace. I think I can say this is a real plot in organic farming since a long time. If I can say it like that, of course. So this is a blend between these plots on limestone, very young, and a small pot which is on granite, which is not especially the same exposure, but there is a big tongue of granite of 10 hectares in Marange. And we have 1 hectare of it. We are lucky, we have 1 hectare of it, a little part of Chardonnay, and a big part in Pinot Noir, which is Haute Côte de Beaune Rouge, Les Côtés. Concerning the red, we decided to separate the part on granite and the part on limestone, but concerning the white, because the young vine was too young. And so when we tasted it without the part on granite, it was a bit boring. The pH were too high, not enough acidity. So, and when we decided to blend it with the part on granite, which is so different, it's not classic Chardonnay of Burgundy because of granite. We can feel some thiol, some special things. And when we decided to blend it with the young, it was interesting. In the future, when the young vine will be okay without the other, and when it will have the real identity of the plot with a normal age, we want to continue our philosophy and separate the part on granite and the part on limestone. But in 20 and 21, this is a blend.
It's really amazing to see how this Chardonnay is really more on the kind of the white fruit, the apples, really on, and also you took it out, you feel that you took it out on the fruit side, on the mineral fruit, not on the alvage, like a little bit, you know, the Gerliot get also this kind of essence, the oil essence, the oily essence coming
I think
inside.
here we really witness like the difference between Aligoté and Chardonnay, because Aligoté, it has this kind of, let's say, a little bit more robust fruit, a little bit more ripe fruit, and chiseled like fruit. And when we taste the Chardonnay, for me, this is one of the most floral Chardonnays I tasted. It feels such a cool climate Chardonnay. The palate has a lot of generosity and like almost silky texture, because the acidity is not in the sky and the bitterness is like, everything is super balanced. And it doesn't feel like it's a ripe Chardonnay from a ripe year. It feels a very cool floral Chardonnay.
But you also feel that there is a more common notes between the Mitam Sherry and the Haute Côte de Beaune Le Côté. You feel that those two have more in common than those two. Here, for me, that was the more regular essence of Aligoté. When you get a lot of kind of crunchiness, kind of this strict fruit. And here, because of the élevage and everything, I think we get a Aligoté with all the possibility of Aligoté, with all these kind of essences, the special oil essence and all that. And going into the Haute Côte de Bourgogne, Haute Côte de Beaune Le Côté, you feel back into this kind of more sharp side, more apples. And so, I mean, that was nice for me to put this Aligoté and this Chardonnay together, because it's not like we put the Mitan Sherry and the Côté, that it's more like obvious. That's Aligoté, that's Chardonnay. That's a special Chardonnay and that's a very special Aligoté. So they are both like outside of the common ones we know. For me, this is what I think, and I think it's like huge effort for Aligoté and a very, very, very special Chardonnay. That you are not getting this kind of, after the floral is a bit different. The fruit is like...
The minerality is totally different. The palate, it hits you different. And
And I think the main reason of this, the identity of Aligoté, is because of granite. That it was completely obvious for us, because the aging was separate between the plot on granite and the plot on aging, and it was blended just before bottling. Contrary to 21, where the winemaking is blend since the beginning. Both plots are blend since the beginning, but it wasn't the case in 20, because we were waiting to taste it separately and say, okay, it can be better with that, it can be better with that, okay, we can blend it. We wasn't sure at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Very special, both.
Very, very special wine.
I think we passed great the whites.
Yeah, we passed the test on the white. Now we can continue to the reds.
Yeah.
If someone have questions or anything, feel free to write. Feel free to ask. With pleasure, we'll answer. Talula will answer.
I think also
Talula, you can in between the white and the red. I think you can. It's a nice story to have your special name. How you got such a special name?
My name, Talula.
Yes.
Yes. I'm from France and I was born in France, but my parents loves very special names. And for example, the name of my brother is Isaïe. And this is an Israeli name. And my parents love to read lots of books, historically books. And one day, just before I was born, they read a book about an Indian tribu where the princess name was Talula. It was a tribu Inca in the south of America, and they decided to give me the name. And it was another, Isaïe was the name in a book too, and they decided to give us some special name.
Nice. So now we can move to we did our stop between the white and the red. And now we can move on for the reds. You can start, I think, by explaining more about the vinification, because I know some of them you do more vendanges, some less, some no, some. So tell us a bit, and tell us also a bit of those you are still on the aging that you didn't release yet from this vintage.
Okay. Concerning the red, I think I can say that it has been easier for us because how can I explain it? With Frédéric Munier, for example, or for me and Claude de Tart, we worked a lot about vinification of Pinot Noir for each plot. With Hugo worked with Frédéric Munier without vendange entière at all, and I worked with Claude de Tart with a lots of quantity of vendange entière. So it was, I think it was the main question and the main discussion we had. We totally agreed at the beginning of the kind of wine we wanted to do, but concerning the vendange entière, it was the big question because we had different experience, and so yes. The vintage 20 was very nice for the red because it was dry, so dry and hot, so the ripening was perfect. And in Marange, we managed to have very low degree of alcohol, under 13 for the main part of our red wines, which is what we love. The acidity was very nice too. Even whereas the vintage was very cold, the acidity wasn't very high in 21, but in 20 it was very nice. Concerning the vendange entière, the main part of all the red you will taste are 0% of vendange entière. But we have one cuvée, which is Bourgogne Rouge en Gerlieu, which is still in barrel here, with 30% of vendange entière. I will explain to you why. Concerning the degrees of the most part of the red wines, so it was low, around 12.5, with very green stems, very green. And for us, it wasn't very interesting to add some stems because we were afraid to have something too strong and too beautiful.
Wait, we don't hear you for a second.
So we decided.
We didn't hear you for a second. I think you're a little bit cut on the signal. We'll just let them know that we put the first two Bourgogne Haute Côte de Bon, so you can see both of the photos.
Yeah.
You can continue with the explanation.
Yeah. And for the cuvée Bourgogne Rouge en Gerlieu, which is still in barrel, we decided to add 30% of vendange entière because it was the only plot where we saw very brown stems, and the degree of alcohol was around 13.5, so higher for us. And so the goal was to balance it with some vegetal part. For the other plots, it wasn't so interesting in this special vintage. Maybe in the future we will add more stems in the other cuvée. Concerning both Haute Côte de Beaune, there is one on granite. Well, I spoke about it so this is Pinot Noir just near the Chardonnay, which is on granite, and the part which is on limestone is Haute Côte de Beaune l'Épésé. The age of the vine is the same, but the terroir, the soil, the depth of the soil is very different. The exposure is not the same too. And I think the selection of the vegetal is very different too, because for Haute Côte de Beaune l'Épésé, the berries were with lots of area with lots of air between the berries, and the berries were very small, contrary to Haute Côte de Beaune les Côtés, so the plot on granite, where the berries were very fat and very, I don't know how can I say it, but grapes were very fat and without some area. The wine is very different, and that's why we decided to make a different aging between both. Haute Côte de Beaune l'Épésé, the skin of berries were the skin of berries were less thin, and so more tannins, more concentration. And when we tasted it during the aging, we decided to make it aging longer. So Haute Côte de Beaune l'Épésé has been bottled in November. Haute Côte de Beaune les Côtés was bottled in June, because, and I am sure this is because of granite, this is a sort of very shy wine without tannins and very smooth. And the goal for us was not to make the aging too longer, because we were afraid to lose the fruit at that moment. Concerning the vineyard, so there is 0% of vendange entière. We don't make some begin when it wants to begin with indigenous yeast. The fermentation was spent about 7 days. It was very fast in 20. But then we decided to keep it about 1 month in vat before to press it. Because for us, it was the moment where we can make the identity of the wine. We don't push on the cap, but we make pumping over every day. Very short pumping over, not to extract too much. This is not the goal. And yes, at the end of 1 month, we taste it and we say, okay, I think tomorrow it will be too late. So it's the moment to press. And so we immediately pressed it. We let the last sugar finish in the vat, and we put it in barrel by gravity without sugar, with 0.000 gram of sugar. That's very important for us because we work with low quantity of sugar. So the goal is, in the barrel, we don't want to take risk with Brettanomyces or with something like that. And then the malolactic fermentation is natural, and the aging, it depends on the cuvée. So Haute Côte de Beaune les Côtés bottle in June, and Haute Côte de Beaune l'Épésé bottle in November.
It's amazing to see this too. First of all, I think to taste the Pinot Noir on granite like that, which gives a lot of smells of garrigue, like
very
thin,
herbal,
like
spicy.
זעתרי ממש, כמעט באף. It's very, very special, you know? And then to taste the one goes on the limestone, which have all this kind of this classic bitterness of classic the minerality, exactly. The fruit, more the black fruit and everything. And also for all of our clients here, it's a very special moment. None of them probably tasted 2020.
Oh yeah.
So first it's like a first taste also to taste really the fruit, the identity of this vintage, and to see 2020, both on white and on red, which is for me a huge vintage for both for the white and both for the red. It's not like if in 19 the reds are here more on the white and it's more close for me. I love it on 18, which is for me as well. White and red are huge, but maybe also the red more. But in 2020 there is really the whites are really amazing and the red as well. And here we saw this expression, I think. But really to see here such a close vineyard in a place that is really not very known to everyone, and see the difference between having this kind of this place is so close to each other, both this vineyard, and the difference here is huge.
Yeah.
And really see the granite without any structure of tannins, more going on the really on the garrigue side,
Yeah.
going very herbal.
A lot of red fruits, herbal character, and a lot of drinkability. You know, it's long. It's like, of course, it's 2020. It will be better in 2 years, of course, but still you get balance. You get the balance, you get the length on the palate, which is really extraordinary. And I'm quite shocked there is not a single Vendange entière, because the nose is so floral. It's like, poof. But
the second one tastes like, reminded me like, you know, a little Claude de la Roche kind of thing, little Moret Saint-Denis character with this kind of liqueur, the black liqueur, you know? Yeah, Le Pesé.
Le Pesé, yeah.
With
It's a bit,
kind
Le Pesé,
of
it's
the
a little
black
bit more dense.
liquor and this mineral tone, and this wine is really necessary for the age. Maybe a little bit like the Tua Ligoté we start with, same gave this kind of thing with a more very easygoing, beautiful character, almost like a kind of Commando G Grenache weight and Nebbiolo coming from Borlotto side, you know, this kind of.
I really had the
thing,
nose of like Nicolas Faure style in the.
The granite is giving
the
kind
granite,
of something
the Le Côté, I
inside.
swear, the nose of hardcore Vendange entière, but like no Vendange entière at all, and so much freshness.
Granite
So
entière.
much.
Granite entière.
Granite entière. But I'm curious about the yields here, because in the Le Pesé, did you have more yield than Le Côté or less?
More?
More yields, like more grapes per hectoliter.
Oh, more yield, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yields, yeah, my English is...
No, it's okay. For the Pesé, the yields were higher than Les Côtés, and it can be surprising because of the concentration. Because when we smell in the Pesé, we think that maybe the yields are lower, but there is a special thing in Les Côtés. We have a little area which is sick, and we try to make it in a better health for the part on granite, and this part makes no grapes at all. That's why the global yield of the plot was lower than Les Pesé.
Because actually, this is the only reason I've asked this question. I really look at both of the wines, and I said, okay, Le Côté is probably has more yield, had more yields, and the Le Pesé is probably very low in yields because the eyes tell me, okay, here it's more concentrated, more color, more ripe fruits. So I really thought exactly the opposite of what you said, and I'm glad I asked it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if in the future, we hope in 21 it was the case, this special area with some problems gave more grapes. Mm-hmm. And I think in the future, when at the end of our work in fertilization to make it in a better health, the global yield in Les Côtés will be better because of exactly what you are speaking about, the size of the grapes, and for Les Pesé, very small berries and very big concentration in the berries. And even there is a good quantity of grapes, the quantity of juice in the berries is very, very, very higher in Les Côtés than in Les Pesé.
Very interesting.
We see tasting like Bourgogne Haute Côte, huh? Not Village, nothing, and those wines are
And
really.
the drinkability.
Really, excuse me, what?
No problem. The drinkability and it was very, very important for us because we make wine, but we love to drink wine, of course, and that's very important for us to catch the fruit and the pleasure in the moment. For us, it will be very interesting to forget Les Pesé in the cellar and to taste it in the future to see the evolution. For Les Côtés, for me, this is not the perfect, but this is the good moment to drink it, I think.
Perfect. It's like, okay, it will age nice, but it's like really coming to having and start to age lang in the Biolo.
It's
It's
irresistible.
like,
It's irresistible. Okay, if you have 3 bottles, please don't drink them in 1 month.
No, also the
Not
tannin.
one. Take
Tannin.
a year to drink them. But if you have 1, then you must taste. You just must taste the 1. So don't drink.
Also the tannin, the structure of the tannin is amazing for the drink. Okay.
It's like classic Côte de Bon tannins because they're really on the front, but they're melting. And so it's not so classic Côte de Bon because strong tannins and like they're really, let's say, falling apart, melting in your palate. Of course, in the Le Pesé, you get a little more tannins and more structure. But yeah, especially for the Le Côté, the tannins are really, really special for me. And of course, the floral fruit characters, like you don't associate that to Côte de Bon reds, I think. It's red fruited, a lot of floral character.
Yeah, it's like the strictness, the coolness, but it's very Marange. In Marange, it's this area and everything is go really on the kind of coolness, almost like an iceberg coolness. But for me, it's very interesting to see in the palate because the end of the Pesé is really on the classic Burgundy way, going to the side, going in the front. When you leave the Côté in the end and you let it go, suddenly you have very different touch of minerality in the end of your palate, close to your tongue in the end, something that is really
in the back.
tasting really different, but giving a lot of character of fresh. It's not the saliva is coming inside, it's just giving you some fresh hint in a very special place, which for me probably will bring the granite.
And which was very funny in the past was that this plot of Haute Côte de Beaune, nobody wanted to buy it because historically the ripening was very difficult and lots of people, and in Marange, the goal was to make big yields, of course, which is not our case. We want to make normal yields, but not too much, not to lose the quality of the. But historically, in Marange, the goal was to sell the grapes to cooperative. So the goal was to make big quantities of juice, and so the kind of manage the canopy and the quantity of grapes on each vine. It was very difficult to ripen it in the past, and at maybe 10 or 11 degrees, it was very difficult to achieve it. But with our kind of yield, about between 13 and 40 hectoliters per hectare, and with the climate change, that's obvious for us to continue to make wine on that kind of plot because it's easier to keep some freshness, it's easier to keep acidity, and not to have degrees of alcohol like maybe like in the vintage 20 in appellation like Volnay or Pommard, where it was very difficult to have low quantity of alcohol.
So let's taste the last red.
Yeah, the last red.
Marange. After we played with unknown, some unknown, probably for many people, not for me. I love the aligoté from the Haute Côte. Always was great, and also the white and the reds. They are very special. Mostly in the recent years when all the global warming, like you spoke about, arrived, and then you really look for that. But then now. Let's have the Marange.
Marange,
one.
Le Bas du Clos, 2020 again, of course.
Yeah. Marange Le Bas du Clos, the plot, I can say it is the garden because it is just the plot in front of the house. This is a very small plot of 16 hectares, so 0.16 hectares. So very, very small, only 2 barrels in 20. The vinification was exactly the same. The degree of alcohol is around 12.7, sorry. Without vendange entière. The bottling was made in November. the winemaking is exactly the same. The particularity of this plot is that the vines are very old. They are 90, and they still give a very good yield with a good balance. In 20 and in 21, it was the first plot we decided to harvest. In 20, it was our first plot with our friends without a vendangeur at the beginning because they weren't at the house at that moment. And so it was special for us because it was the beginning of our new life and the beginning of our story. Very small plot, only with friends. And so, yes, it was very special for us. The special thing in that cuvée is that every cuvée was difficult to taste at one moment during the aging. For this cuvée, Marange le Bas du Clos, it was easy to drink since a very, very, very long time, even at the beginning of the aging. We were a bit afraid about that because we thought, oh, maybe if it's easy to drink now, it will be tired if we keep it in barrel. So we tasted it very often to see if everything was okay, if the malolactic fermentation was okay. And we decided to make it aging less than the other cuvée of Marange les Plantes, which is still in barrel, because the concentration was so different. And it was the same goal, catch the fruit, maybe drink it now, but I think for Marange le Bas du Clos, it will be better to keep it and to make it aging in bottle.
Yeah, it's a very, very special wine. You smell and then you taste, and
as well.
And this is a really, like you said yourself, it's a very unique wine because the minerality is totally different, I think, from what we've tasted. The fruit profile, the aging is the same as Le Pesé and Le Côté? Or
the aging is the same as Le Pesé, but not
okay.
Le Côté. It was before.
It's less than 12.
Yeah.
Wow. This for me is more going to, if the Pesé were going through the kind of a black fruit liqueur of Moret Saint-Denis, this one is really like Flagey chez eux.
Yeah,
it's really
exactly.
like the upper part of Flagey, bringing this red fruit, minerality, spiciness, everything. Wow. I mean, all this range of wines, if you know, today in the situation of Burgundy and the rising of the prices, you know, I was very happy to get you here in 2020. I'm sure it's going to be a hit. I love the labels and the wines and everything, which I will ask you a little bit to tell just after. But yeah, I mean, wow, this is wonderful, and such a easy-going Marange with all the complexity. It's really
to keep it for years, because you said it was everything was in balance all the time, and I think it's an evidence for a great wine. Once it has the complexity, it has the concentration, it has everything to age, but it was balanced from the beginning. And we hope until his end it will be balanced. But it's really a different wine from what we tasted. It feels a little bit like you connect, like if you put together Le Côté and Le Pesé, but with an extra dimension of minerality and energy.
Different dimension.
Yeah, and
wow.
I really think we should make this tasting in the morning because those are really wines full of energy.
That's what I want to say. I just drank all of them, which usually I'm not drinking everything in those tasting.
We have like here this, but we didn't use ice. I can put it like that.
To prove the point, yeah. We were just like, you know, you kill them, really. Even those that have the tannins, they still don't have the mass on your palate. They still give you the freshness, the energy, and everything. I mean, wow. No selling anymore.
A new view of Burgundy. Really a new view. I think it's the first winery from Marange, of course. Yeah, it's the first winery for us.
Now we will have to with Bachelay Monod.
Bachelay Monod, yes.
He sits there. Away. Not a lot of Marange for that.
Why, yes, a lot. Yeah,
just
yeah.
a little bit production.
Different, but
Come on,
different. No, but also it will be very interesting after to do a taste because this is a different two parts of Marange.
Yes, totally.
Which he work on the side of really Marange. This is more Sampigny le Marange here. Yeah, true.
Yeah, totally. Bachelet Mono works a lot in Désiz les Maranges, where the slope are more like that. And for us, I can say like that. The exposure is different. And yes, I think we will definitely, but I think it's very interesting. I already tasted the wines. Very different expression of Marange. And that's very interesting to see that in a unknown appellation like Marange, we can work at the same in the rest of the Burgundy and work especially on each terroir. And yes.
So we are here to 2022 representing Marange. Hot coats and also Marange, which is very nice, you know. Also, it's a kind of, you know, global warming to see the places that can shine on in the time where many people are afraid when Von Romanet go to 16%.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Von Romanet is going to 16%, but Marange stays like 12.4. So it's like all the opposite, huh? Everything is like turning around in Burgundy.
It's really, really, really nice, and those wines are so special, really, and we are so happy to represent them and to do this tasting and let people have 2020 when some of our 2019s didn't arrive yet, and almost nobody here tasted 2019, and we are already on the 2020 tasting.
White, but nothing.
So that's very special, and it's very special to have you again. It's nice to see you again. It was a beautiful visit. Really, it was a great time to visit you, and having the wines on battles. Like I said, you know, it will be very interesting to see those wines in battles after the barrels were very, very impressive. And the label, where it comes from?
The label?
Yeah, the special label.
Yeah, the friends who give you the word to come to taste the wine here. It the same person who advised us to one people who works for him for the labels. And the guy is in Bordeaux. The name of the company is La Suite Atelier. I think everybody has his talent and his own job, and artistic is not ours. So we decided to make it by a professional. And so we decided to work around the déesse Cassiope, because this is the identity of the estate, the constellation, the work with the moon, because we work a lot with the moon. We work with biodynamic too. And so the goal was to work on that spirit. And so it was a postcard at the beginning. The Cassiope was on postcard, and the people who we work with to do the label work around this postcard, very old postcard, because it was created in 17,000. In 1700, and so yes, he worked about it. We wanted not to have a Domaine de Cassiope in black in big letters. The goal was to make the Cassiope déesse in evidence and in clear. And yes, we are very happy of the label. The label is not difficult to read, but with lots of details. So the goal was to keep the same for each cuvée, and there is only the color and the name of the cuvée which changes to be sure that people will recognize the estate. And that's why we decided to make it something original, because when when you are a young estate in Burgundy, and when you are in that kind of appellation, the goal is that people see your label and don't forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the label is beautiful. I think it's really, really, really beautiful. I remember the first time asking about it, and it was really wonderful to see that. And it is wonderful to have you with us, really. I mean, I'm sure everyone here are very happy to taste those wines from very special and different place in Burgundy, and all the classic knowers here of Burgundy had everything suddenly to expose something truly different, you know. Even if you had Marange, you will get something even more special here, with some vineyards from nowhere, almost in Burgundy, in the middle of nowhere.
That's where we're going.
And some other ones that close. And really, each tasting was 3 different wines, on the white and the red, with your style, which is very light-handed, giving the terroir to express, you know, because usually, if I would tell you in 2020, it's supposed to be still on the time of the élevage. So most of the white, most of the red should look pretty much the same. And here, it's not the point. I mean, you work very elegant, and the expression of the terroir in this tasting, the expression of terroir and some expression of élevage, of course, to see the difference between the aging of 9-10 months to those who age more for the 13-14 months. So it was very special tasting, and thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and next time we'll see you here in Israel, I hope.
Oh, we hope.
Yes.
I actually have one final question.
Yes.
What is the total production of bottles in the domain?
In 20, it was 18,500 bottles. And
Thank you very much. Now I understand. It's nothing. זה באמת כלום.
Ça n'existait pas. But
Exactement.
in 2021,
in 2021, with a new plot of Marange Village, we will make 12,000 bottles. Yes. Yes, that's the big problem of viticulture in 21. It will be very difficult, but
so the total production on a normal year, future-wise, with
we hope in the future. We hope in the future 25,000 bottles.
Yeah.
With a good vintage, with the same area, so 5 hectares, 25,000. Sorry.
Amazing, small, beautiful, and amazing work. Really, this is the unbelievable expression for Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Aligoté, Marange, Haute Côte de Beaune, and everything around that.
Thanks a lot. I am so happy to hear things like that, because this is why we work hard all the year, and this is to hear that people understand what we want to do, and if we can feel it in the white and in the red, so the difference between each plot, etc. And not, as you said, and not about élevage, because this is not our goal. Yes, we will try to do the best to continue in that kind of work.
Excellent.
And I have the real honor with you to have the taste the first barrels to the first bottles to let's stick in 10 years and remember the day, you know, those days in the cellar. And we have everyone here comments a little bit from about the wines. Those privately said it was amazing, and those writing, you know, about how the wines are really great and beautiful. I hope everyone enjoyed, and thank you very much, Kalula. It was a wonderful time.
Yes,
it was a pleasure to speak about it with you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Amazing, amazing.
And see you next time in Burgundy when you are back. It will be a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Maybe soon than you think.
Yes, maybe sooner than you think. could be fun.
וזהו, לכולם, כרגיל, סוף הטעימה, אפשר להיכנס, לרכוש, נוציא אולי...
בלית ברירה צריך גם למכור את העיינות, אבל בסדר. ובאמת כמויות קטנות כפי שהיא אמרה, ופשוט תענוג להראות את העיינות האלה, ולהראות שבורגון זה לא השמות הגדולים ביותר, ויש המון המון דברים מתחת לפני השטח, וכל בציר קוראים דברים חדשים, והם מאוד מאוד שמחים לעבוד עם יקב כזה.
שהוא באמת יוצא דופן, שני אנשים יוצאי דופן שעובדים באופן מדהים, אז תודה.
בורגון הליגוטה, בורגון
אתה
הליגוטה.
יכול לפתוח קצת את זה, אפשר להגיד לה תודה רבה, ואנחנו הכי שמחים בעולם לארח. אז אפשר לפתוח לכולם רגע צלל את הקולות, מה שנקרא. Thank you very much, Talula. It was really great pleasure. And you'll have everyone here to tell you.
Thank you for all people. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Don't worry.
Great wines.
Feel free, Talula. Just feel free.
See you soon. Cheers.
Cheers.